Now, before the episode 3 ended, we saw how worried Josephine and Edward were because of Elishba's whereabouts. They were very worried because Elishba told them she was going for an abortion process at Eddie's place. And now, she was nowhere to be found. Now, I couldn't believe what I saw in the episode 4. What could have Josephine done to Elishba to deserve all that? In this episode, I was very disappointed in Elishba. So all this while, she was acting for something else? Poor Josephine. Now the episode 4 started, as Josephine was shocked to see her very own friend Elishba return. She was very happy to see her safe in her return, with Edward. Elishba told her she had terminated the pregnancy with no harm on her, which made Josephine believed it. We are always happy to have Joe in the studio. Joe, you are welcome again to Africa Kids in Love Reaction on Losing My Virginity.
I'm very excited to be here once again.
Hope you are doing well.
I'm good, Olivia.
So Joe, our first scene is on board. What do you have to say about it?
Olivia, I actually can't tell the reason behind why teenagers always get influenced easily by their peers, but rather difficult to be influenced by their parents or relatives. In this episode, we saw clearly how Josephine ignored her elderly brother who was trying to put her on the right path. Also did same to her teacher.
Losing my virginity.
Elishba came to tell her those stories and she easily believed it without asking her where she was all this while.
As far as she had cooked up something for her to believe, I think she would have done the same if she had asked of her whereabout.
Well, I think the only interested thing for her was to see Elishba return with no harm, so she wouldn't think of asking questions.
Poor Josephine, she is very ignorant on all that is happening. Now through to our second scene. In this scene, we saw Josephine, who was on the verge to call Fred after she had thought wisely on what Elishba told her. She had totally believed what Elishba told her. She even admitted that all what her elderly brother told her was to scare her away from them. I wish she will eventually get to know the truth.
Olivia, I think the part which Joe got a touch to was the financial aspect. If I could remember, she said her brother was finding it difficult to provide her basic school needs, which made it easier for Elishba to convince her totally. Come think of it, Olivia. How would you feel if you were in Josephine's shoes and seeing your friend getting money without any hard work?
Well, I might say that wouldn't be easy for me.
So here I really understood Josephine. Besides, her only thoughts was to engage herself in relationship to help her fetch money for her outkeep, but got no idea on the negative parts.
Losing my virginity. She even believed that those people helping her negatively were the people giving her a helping hand.
From the starting, she might see them to be angels for her, because none of them had shown any negative sign.
Now, our next scene. In this scene, she went to Fred, saying she was ready to be in a relationship with him. Fred asked if she really wants to do that, but Joe insisted she is ready that he can even take her to anywhere of his choice. Losing my virginity. Joseph, your point in this scene.
Olivia, I think at this point no one, not even you or I, can advise her to stop what she is about to put herself in. From what she had been told, and even witnessed for herself, sorry to say this, there wouldn't be any kind of turning back at this point. She feels being left behind, so doing that would be an awesome step for her, which we all know Fred is just pretending.
She even asked if Fred would able to help her get some money for her school needs, which shows Joe engaged herself in it because of school needs. Poor Josephine. Why this happening to her? Losing my virginity. Now, our fourth scene. In this scene, we saw Elishba, Edward, and Fred in a conversation. After 2 seconds of seeing them together, I knew something was wrong. In their conversation, we heard Edward asking for a balance money from Fred after persuading Joe to love him, which means 1, Elishba faked her pregnancy, 2, wasn't in love with Edward, 3, lied that she had engaged in 4 abortions, and 4, she didn't lose her virginity to anyone. Damn, bumbleclat. How could Elishba team up with these people to persuade Josephine? I'm very sad now.
Olivia, I think this team up was on a crucial purpose. Maybe Fred is being offended by Josephine, which led to that plan. And whatever the case is, it really hurt Fred a lot that he can't get her mind over it until he had made her regret.
Josephine made some statement earlier, which provoked Fred.
The guys of this era have nothing to offer. They come into your life and use the word love to lure with the young girls in order to take advantage of us. But as for me, there is no way I'll allow them even near me.
So Joe, is right for Fred to be angry over this issue? Moreover, she wasn't saying that to your face.
Joe was only saying that from what she had here and also defending herself. So I don't understand why Fred took that serious. Also in this case, we all know how teenagers can be. He wouldn't let anyone look down on them, especially males.
Losing my virginity. So are you saying that what Fred did was right?
Nah, I'm not on his side. I'm just trying to figure out what could actually happen for him to gather such hatred for her.
Fred later told them he will give them their payment the following week, which they all agreed. Losing my virginity. Scene number 5. In this scene, we saw Edward, who was in talk with his partner in crime, Elishba. He was very unhappy because of their payment being delayed by Fred on their mission they embarked on. Elishba told him not to worry. They made Josephine fall for him, and they are the same people who can also make her change her mind if only Fred tries to play smart. Joseph, what do you have to say in the scene also?
Well, I know situations like this resolves in this way. Either the boss get them paid or they go against him. And I'm sure Fred wouldn't do anything wrong this point. Why I'm saying that he had passed through a lot to get Joe, so he wouldn't afford to do anything bad to get his plans ruined. So patient is what the two people needs now.
Losing my virginity. After the conversation, as Elishba was leaving, Edward asked her out on his proposal. So Edward was already in love with Elishba? Interesting.
But Elishba rejected his proposal right from there. Pretending to love someone can also push you to love the person. We always see that in movies. Actors get married to actress a lot of countless time. Olivia playing a romantic role with someone isn't that easy. So do understand Eddie very well. It's not his fault he's being pushed to.
Losing my virginity. Come think of it, Elishba should accept him. We all had seen what Edward can do. Although, what happened previously was just pretends. But I know if she gives him a chance, he will love her.
You said something like, all they had was just pretends, which clearly shows he pretended to love her. What if she give him a chance and then she sees different Edward in him?
That could be true. But the decision lies in Elishba's hand to decide if she would love him or not. Now, our 6th scene. We saw Joe, who was happy telling Elishba she had finally gotten into a relationship of her interest. She was excited telling Elishba the positive aspects of Fred. In order to make Josephine believe her more, she pretended to be happy for her. She asked Joe if she had lose her virginity to Fred, but out of her ignorance, she happily said no, not yet. But instead, she is planning with Fred to do that. Josephine doesn't deserve that from Elishba. See how naive she is. She knows nothing, thinking she had gotten a better love, not knowing she is just playing with fire. Elishba told Joe that once she get rid of her virginity, she will feel so relaxed and enjoy her relationship. Just look at all these lies she is cooking up for her to believe. Losing my virginity.
That is the end result whenever you refuse to listen to advice from elderly people. If I can recall, a lot of people who had tried to advise her, but you see, she refused them all, thinking they are the ones influencing her negatively. So I know that will be her best ever lesson to learn as a teenager.
And the painful part is that Elishba herself is still a virgin. After lying to Josephine, she had lose her virginity to Edward.
That was a mission accomplished by Edward and Elishba.
I just hope that Josephine will find out their mission on her before she loses her virginity. Now I'm afraid she will be the one getting pregnant at the end. Losing my virginity. Our 7th scene. We saw Fred, who was in talk with Heinz. At first, I knew Heinz was also part of the deal, but he wasn't. Heinz instead was telling Fred not to do that with Josephine. He told him she is too innocent to be treated that way. But Fred, who had made up her mind, refused to listen to him. He wouldn't come this far and give up just like that.
He later on told Heinz the reason behind him trying to ruin Josephine's life. He said he hate ladies who love to brag a lot in life.
Losing my virginity. So Elishba just stood up against her friend, but he should have included her too, since they were together that time.
Well, after listening to their conversation, he knew Joe was the one bragging.
Heinz tried to stop him once again, but he refused. Heinz later came to White informing her what Fred had planned against Josephine.
White did well telling Heinz she would talk to Josephine. But my question now is, will Josephine take her advice at this point? She is already gone, and it seems nothing, absolutely nothing, would draw her back.
I pray White would cook up something strong for her to believe. The kind of happiness in her wouldn't allow her change her mind, losing my virginity. Scene number 8. In this scene, Josephine's teacher came to her trying to convince her come to school, but Josephine told him she wouldn't come to the school again. She said to the teacher, all what they have been teaching her in school had always been lies, and nothing else. She told the teacher some of her friends had engaged in abortion, and nothing of bad sign had happened to them. The teacher tried again to put some advice in her head, but all to no avail.
Olivia, do you know Joe asked the teacher a question?
Let me ask you, did your mother commit any crime giving birth to you? No. That's the more reason why I'm not coming back to school.
Which made things easier for me to understand that she is ready to face any kind of consequences, if any. So I believe at this point she sees herself to be an adult, but not a teenager. She can decide for herself what to do with her life. No advice on earth would change her now.
Losing my virginity. Now, our very last scene. In this scene, Elishba was very angry with Fred, saying they had work for him to achieve what he wanted, and now he is refusing to pay them their money. Fred angrily told her he would only give them the money on their deal date, as he told them earlier. But Elishba wasn't certain with that at all. She really needed her money. So as they continued to argue, Josephine from nowhere intervened. They were shocked to see her. Joe.
My only prayer is that Joe heard all what they were saying. Now the only way Joe can depart herself from following Fred is if she gets to know the truth herself. For that one, nobody would tell her what to do. So assuming now you have seen and heard the truth and you still continue as if nothing happened?
My only hope is that she heard all what they were saying, since that will be her only source of departure. Now this very last scene brings us to the end of today's analysis on losing my virginity.